I'm Carolyn Young, Chief Executive of Retail NZ. Welcome to Retail Unplugged. Grab a coffee, take a 10-minute break, and join me alongside Anthony Watson, Country Manager for Visa New Zealand and South Pacific. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Kia ora, and thanks for having me, Carolyn. Really appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here.
Look, it's going to be a great chat because it's the first of 3 episodes that we've got. We're going to talk about security, fraud trends, and emerging technologies that will impact New Zealand retailers. But before we get into that big deep dive into those areas, can we just start maybe with you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Visa and what Visa does?
Yeah, absolutely. As the country manager for New Zealand and South Pacific, my role is largely to champion the payments industry on behalf of our clients, merchants and businesses, as well as consumers. And it's a real privilege to be part of Visa's efforts to be able to achieve this. What's really interesting for most people to realize when I get this question is at its core, Visa is really a tech company, and innovations really at the heart of what we do. As a world leader in digital payments, we enable how people move money around the world. And our mission is to connect the world so that businesses and economies can really thrive. Security is very critical to this vision. For us to be able to assure payments for merchant partners in particularly, we champion security within the industry, helping clients, partners, and the broader sector, I guess, maintain the integrity as to how payments are made and received across the country. So that's a bit about what I do.
Fantastic. And I think, the thing that you mentioned there, I think that's really important, is the role that Visa plays in being that trusted advisor for businesses and consumers, and having that confidence that people have in transacting with an organisation like Visa and protecting the funds that they do. We've seen a lot of commentary about the impact of fraud and scams on retailers, not only across New Zealand, but globally. Why right now should fraud be top of mind for businesses in New Zealand?
Well, you're absolutely right, Carolyn. There is absolutely an increased focus on fraud and scams, and that's reflected in the depth of the media coverage I think we can see around the issue in the country. And it's something that causes real damage to every Kiwi who's impacted. That's one reason there's such a strong emotional response to this topic. And it's something that has impacted all of us in some way, whether it be friends and family or colleagues who have been a victim of fraud and scams. I certainly have got many stories myself on this topic. And aside from the emotional impact that it has on individuals, there's also a very significant consequences on fraud that it's often overlooked as a side effect. And fraud and scams, without doubt, result in serious reputational and financial impacts for businesses and their customers. So along with partners like Visa, I think it's really critical that all business owners are focused on improving and maintaining the integrity of how payments are made and received, not only to safeguard customer data, but also to protect their own reputation. To give you a couple of data points around this, the listeners will get to understand why it's so important. According to some research that was done recently from the Bank of New Zealand, 1 in 10 households have lost money to a scam in 2023, and 9 out of 10 have been targeted by a scam. I think if we went into decimals, it's probably more like 9.9 have been targeted by a scam. Earlier this year, Visa did announce that our AI-based fraud solution had prevented about 270 million in fraud from disrupting New Zealand businesses, which we're very proud of. What's a bit scary about that stat is that it's tripled what it previously was reported back in 2021, which was about 88 million. So a significant increase over that period of time. Safe to say that trust and security really go hand in hand. And I think underlining that trust word, which we see as the currency for commerce, really.
And so I guess really what you're saying, if we get that down into nuts and bolts, you either have been scammed or you've been approached by a scammer. And so everyone should be on alert at all times. And I know myself that sometimes you get emails that come through, and it's so hard these days to determine whether they're legitimate or not, right? Because these scammers are professional, it's what they do for a job. And you just have to be alert at all times.
I agree. And they're quite targeted. They'll pick particular times in the day where you'll be busy, where it's difficult often to spend the time to really read and understand if it's legitimate.
Yeah.
They're very, very sophisticated in what they do and targeted.
And I think sometimes it's about disruption. It's not the initial approach isn't about the scam itself. It's about the disruption and seeing where the weak links are. And then they come in later when they know that they've captured someone's attention and they've built that trust with the consumer or the business. And then they go in for, what could be a really tricky situation for that business. But, I really like the piece around, in the retail industry, we say that retail is built on relationships, and the issue with fraud, it can sour those relationships between a business and a consumer or a business and a customer. So I kind of guess the multi-million-dollar question is, what can consumers or businesses do about that to keep those relationships with each other strong and push back on some of the fraud or potential fraud?
It's a great question, Carolyn. I think the first step is to acknowledge that fraud can happen to anyone, and raising awareness and education is really important. Fraudsters really thrive on finding those vulnerabilities, and that can be even amongst some of the tech savvy businesses and consumers who really understand what to look for, or we think we do. Some of the research that we did survey about 1,000 Kiwis and found that 34% of people have been the victim of a scam. And that's despite 93% of them saying they are somewhat knowledgeable when it comes to recognizing these types of scams that are out there, and 51% of them claim to be very or extremely knowledgeable. One of the ways that Visa supports businesses and consumers is through our security roadmap. It's a multi-year roadmap. This features security best practices. It has educational resources and insights that help secure payment technologies, and that certainly helps to safeguard some of the digital payment areas. That's all about what you can do to get your business out of harm's way or prevent it from being a target really in the first place. In addition to the security roadmap, I'll just add that there is a section on our Visa website around protection and security that provides some really useful tips on how to spot a scam as a consumer, with some really easy to digest educational materials and videos that I think we can all understand really well. So I'd encourage everyone to just take a look at that.
Fantastic. So they'd go onto visa.co.nz, search security roadmap, and you'll find lots of resources through in terms of that space. It's fantastic to see that there's so much support out there to help retailers keep their business out of, customers' harm's way. Emerging technologies such as generative AI, they continue to develop every day, it seems like, and it moves the goalposts around the things that we need to be aware of. Do we know that it's a real thing? Is it an AI thing? That sort of thing. And how businesses and consumers keep pace with those changes is really difficult. How will AI, do you think, continue to change the payments landscape?
Yeah, I think as new ways to buy and sell and move money become much more popular with consumers and businesses across the country and globally, the reality is they also become popular with fraudsters seeking to exploit vulnerabilities in the system. So technologies like Gen AI, they're a reminder that security needs to keep pace with some of the innovation that's occurring. Fraudsters can use AI to target every aspect of a transaction. And I'll give an example of that. It can automate and scale some of the phishing attacks that we see that are occurring that we were talking about earlier, facilitate identity theft, which is becoming more and more common, unfortunately, and impersonation scams via deep fakes. And they do this very, very efficiently. Enumeration attacks is another one, also known as brute force attacks for those in the industry. They're on the rise as well. In 2023, we had a biannual threats report, and that found there was about 40% increase in these types of attacks in the first 6 months of 2023. The attacks involve criminals using automated scripts or software to just repeatedly try guess card numbers, expiration date, the postal code, your little CVV, 3-digit value on the back of the card. And fraudsters typically target merchants who are providing online shopping facilities in these type of attacks. So it's very concerning to see the type of growth that we're seeing at the moment.
And I guess that's some numbers game, right? If you can put a code into a computer and you just keep running it through and through and through, there's a potential that you'll hit the right number, the right CVV, the right expiration number and postal code, and it opens the door. So I guess it's really important to make sure that your data is protected really well, and that you make sure that all your customer data is really well protected. So if you think about Visa, what is their role in all of this, and how is technology enhancing security, making sure that we're staying one step ahead of these fraudsters that are just out to do harm?
It's a great question. It's something obviously we think a lot about as a leader in digital payments, facilitating those transactions between consumers, merchants, financial institutions. We really see our role as connecting New Zealand and the world with the most innovative, convenient, and secure payments that we've got across the network. The work we're doing with AI, I think it's just this great testament to this. Back in 1993, Visa became the first network to deploy these AI-based technology for risk and management. We really pioneered some of the use of these AI models in payments. Looking to use cases internationally, in the UK, we did partner with Pay.UK, which runs the UK's retail payment operations. We worked with them to pilot a new AI tool that we call, it's a bit of a mouthful, Visa Protect for A2A payments, for faster payments. And it's an account-to-account payments platform, essentially. This new technology helped to intercept any of the suspected fraud transactions in real time, stopping some of the scams before the money ever left the victim's bank account, which clearly, if we look across the landscape in New Zealand at the moment, this is something that's top of mind for a lot of people out there. I'll add that we use these advanced AI technologies to help identify about 54% of those fraudulent transactions that previously had been made over the prior 12 months period, and had already passed through the bank's fraud detection systems, and it could have helped to save the UK economy about 330 million pounds in a year. While the account-to-account payments functionality is yet to arrive in New Zealand, the functionality does work on the existing payments infrastructure that we have here, which is great. And it's an innovation in fraud and scam detection that really demonstrates, I think, the importance of innovation to help reduce some of the fraud, enhance network security. So we'll continue to work through this from the New Zealand context, and hopefully there's more to come to New Zealand later on in the year.
Fantastic. That's a lot of information to take in, but it's critically important for businesses and consumers to be aware around how to combat some of these things and keep everything safe. Thank you so much for joining us today, Anthony. It's been great chatting to you. It's a timely reminder of all the importance of staying vigilant when it comes to fraud and scams. Please visit visa.co.nz if you want to find out more information, and be sure to listen to our next episode in this series of 3. Special thanks to Visa, one of Retail NZ's key partners, whose support enables us to keep you up to date with everything retail. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for taking a few minutes out of your time, having a coffee, to learn everything about fraud. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to Retail Unplug on your preferred channel so you can keep up to date with all the current industry knowledge. Until next time, ka kite anō, bye for now. Kia ora.
Kia ora.